What's up, YouTube? Dubkdadone Team DKF Part 2. We're going to kind of divine the format, kind of figure out what the hell's going on here. Let's talk about decks, in my opinion, that are no longer viable. Not very many come to mind. The only thing I can really think of, Formula Monarchs, because they banned Fishborg and they put Formula to 1, so it kind of just kills the deck. And then deck running Deep Sea King, Coelacanth, the big fish. They essentially killed big fish without actually touching that fish. They poisoned the water. So, I mean, in my opinion, those are the only two decks that are no longer viable. And Water Synchro. I mean, they just, the whole point of Water Synchro was Fishborg abuse, and they killed that. So there's three decks, in my opinion, that are no longer viable. Everything else is still viable. You don't believe me? I mean, check the forum boards, test out for yourself. Yeah, they kick plants in the ass, and it pissed me off because that's been my favorite deck for several formats, but the deck was out of control, and they hurt it pretty bad by hitting huge cards. I mean, now first card that really I noticed hurt was Formula 1, because your 1-for-1 Dandelion plays, kind of suffered with that. And then later on in the games, I started to realize, wow, I am really missing Pot of Avarice. So, that really hurt the deck. But you can still make the same derpy plays. They're not as, let's just say, they're not as efficient anymore. But, everything else you're playing is watered down too. So it's just as competitive as everything else, since everything else took a hit. Six Sams is not the same deck anymore. Don't think that it's not viable. It's the same deck. Someone's going to innovate, and they're going to bump their monster count. They're going to focus less on dropping Shien and more on dropping Barkion and Landoys and Natbeast, and just run an aggro control deck, and you're going to get your teeth kicked in. Trust. Another deck's still viable. Tech Genis. Tech Genis is still going to be a viable fucking deck. Teammate runs that deck. He was pushing our shit in because you storm. He has road or bribe. You try to get aggressive. He has skill drain, and all that. And then you got to remember, Heavy Storm is just one card. You're not going to always have it. You can blind MST all day, but he's setting 5 cards, so you're blind MSTing and not hitting the right cards. And in the meantime, he's poking you with random Tengus and random Rhinos. And then if you try to gain control, then you got the damn TG creature swap bullshit, and you get your teeth kicked in some more. So the deck is still very viable. Gravekeepers. Prepare to get fucked by Gravekeepers. People are trying to bump to a higher monster count because of Storm, and say, well, I just use my monsters for protection instead of back rows because storms exist. Well, they didn't touch Royal Tribute, so you're going to get raped by that shit. I will say, though, turn 1 Royal Tribute is a lot less common, not because they don't see it as often, but because the Gravekeeper player can no longer set Spy, ditch Commandant, activate Necro Valley, set their hand, and play Royal Tribute. Because if they miss, then they look at your hand and see you have the heavy storm, and they set their hand with that protection, then they're boned. And if they're not careful, and they only set 1 or 2 cards for Fear Storm in Royal Tribute, then they just gave you information about the rest of their hand. So I'm not saying that it won't happen, but it's going to be a lot less likely because they're not going to be willing to give up the information, and they're not going to want to set their hand, set all the bluffs like they normally set. They'll set the bluff duality and a bluff delay and all this other shit, making you think they got the nuts when they don't, and then you storm that shit and they don't have any protection. They're not going to want to do that. But Necro Valley is still a card, and you can still get raped by that shit if you don't have an immediate answer. Zombies have made a return. Go through my binder. I played Zombies at Shonen Jump Los Angeles, and I didn't do that awesome there because I was running like a freaky, techie variant. I never play what everybody else is playing. I always put my own twist to shit. But Revive King It's gonna push Tengu shit in. It's gonna hurt. So I think that deck is something to look out for. Um, I don't, to be honest, I don't think Pain Painter and Blue Blooded Oni are worth running with deep, or what is that thing called? Sea Serpent Lever, whatever the damn thing is called. It kind of makes those other cards unnecessary. You just spam your Plague Spreader, and I think the deck runs efficiently without all that shit. So if you went out and got Pain Painters and you think, oh my god, the card is amazing, I'm pretty sure that at the end of the day, there's going to be people who aren't running that shit and are running more optimal cards, and they're going to wreck your shit. Dark Worlds, we don't have to worry about that until Sabers, until Shonen or YCS Columbus, but obviously that deck is going to be very good. Usually the only card they usually have on the board in the beginning is their field spell. So the deck auto wins against Gravekeepers. They kind of auto win versus setup decks because they have the Dark World Lightning, they have Grapha, and they have all the other shit. It's just going to be tough for them to face decks like Sworn and other aggressive decks. I know I'm missing some. Agents. Agents. I mean, you guys saw that it won Worlds. The deck is ridiculous. I just thought for sure they were going to hit Hyperion because that shit is overpowered in my opinion. But the deck is going to be a contender, and now they have the ability to run Blackluster Soldier, thanks to Tour Guide. So the deck is going to be even crazier than it used to be. So I don't really have any other decks in mind that are going to be extremely competitive or extremely viable. You know, just the three that I feel that are not viable anymore. But in addition to the decks that I said are viable, if there are people out there who are deck builders like myself, talking about Jeff Jones, Dale Bolito, Pete Navarro, those kind of people, I'm not necessarily putting myself in their class, but I just want to say that this type of thing, the ban list and the introduction of new set and decks getting severely crippled, these are the times that people like them and myself live for. Because at the beginning formats like this, it's always the deck innovators who top events, because the rest of the crowd usually just net decks. Not to say that they're not good, it's just that there's nothing to net deck, and then they get raped by the innovators. And then as the dust clears, there's more shit than net deck, then, you know, everybody else kind of catches up. But this is the time we live for, and, you know, like I said about Six Sam's, how the deck, I feel, will evolve. It'll still be a factor, but the deck will evolve. Someone innovating a deck that can do the things that Sam's used to do the things that Kara Curry does, where they can set up a Nat Beast or a Landois, and then protection. Those are going to be the kind of top decks, because the only thing you have to worry about is Storm to break up your setup. Then you have Nateria Beast to protect you from the Storm, and then you have the back, you know, just like the last format. But I think that it's going to be a huge deal, decks that can make first turn Nat Beast and that can protect the Nat Beast and ride it to victory. All right, Dubkdad, Team DKF, and I'm out.